Hey folks, welcome to Election Projections' new YouTube channel. I'm really excited about this new feature that I'm going to incorporate into the website. I hope it will be very beneficial and informative to all my readers, and I hope it will catch on. So what I plan to do is for each week on Friday, I will be posting a video update of the 2016 elections and talk about how they're progressing. What I'll do is I'll start with the events that have transpired in the previous week, and then I'll also look ahead to what's upcoming in the next week. So right now we have started the 2016 nomination season, the primary season, and we've had a couple of nominating contests already in Iowa and New Hampshire. And next week we're looking at, well, tomorrow in fact, we're looking at having a South Carolina primary for the Republicans, as well as the Nevada caucus for the Democrats on Saturday. So let's start by looking back at what's happened so far. We've had two very interesting nominating contests in Iowa and New Hampshire. The caucuses in Iowa actually produced record turnout for the Republicans that some of the polls predicted, some of them didn't. But what we thought was going to happen as on the basis of that turnout is that would benefit Donald Trump, which, as we know, turned out to actually be a tribute to how well Ted Cruz had been able to organize his ground game. Despite the record turnout, which should have favored Trump, Cruz came out on top. I think there are two things to look at that beyond what Cruz did. First is the fact that Marco Rubio also had a very, very strong showing in Iowa. In fact, his showing led me to think that he was going to be on the track to the nomination. And I said as much in one of my posts on the blog. Unfortunately, he ran into a problem with the debate heading into New Hampshire, the old robotic candidate mantra that really did have an effect on his performance in New Hampshire. So the other thing about Iowa is that even though Donald Trump had been leading in the polls, he hadn't really campaigned that much or put that much effort into Iowa. So for him to finish second, even though he had been in front in the polls going in, that was actually a pretty good accomplishment for him. And he added to that by his very, very strong finish in New Hampshire, where he did live up to the polls and doubled up the second place finisher, John Kasich. So what we have coming into South Carolina is we have a candidate in Donald Trump whose candidacy and his status as frontrunner has definitely been verified and validated. And on the Democratic side, we see an insurgent candidacy as well with Bernie Sanders. The question for him was not whether or not he could be frontrunner, but whether or not his candidacy itself could be validated. And we saw that he indeed was able to do that, first in Iowa, where he almost beat Hillary Clinton, and then again in New Hampshire, where he creamed her, which was expected because that's what the polls were saying, and it is a liberal Northeast state next door to his home state of Vermont. So now what we have on the Democratic side going forward now is the Nevada caucuses. It'll be another caucus situation where voters will meet and discuss who they want to support, and they'll take head counts and so forth before arriving at a final vote total. Recent polls have shown this race to be very, very close, neck and neck between Sanders and Clinton. It's also a race where Clinton doesn't necessarily need to win to feel like she can still win the nomination. What's really going to matter for her is the southern states that involve a lot of minority voters. That's sort of her firewall. So we're going to be looking at next Saturday's South Carolina Democratic primary to sort of put our pulse on how well she's doing for the nomination. On the Republicans, tomorrow will be the South Carolina primary, and Trump again is leading very, very strongly in that state, and does appear that he will win. Now, there has been some murmuring that Ted Cruz is gaining ground, and we've also looking at his amazing ground game in the Palmetto State as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he turns out, because he has overperformed in both Iowa and New Hampshire. So we'll have to see if that trend continues. But what we really want to see is who emerges as the non-Trump candidate. And the problem right now is that Trump, even though his ceiling is only 35 or 40%, he could carry that all the way to the nomination because the other candidates are battling each other for the remaining chunks of the Republican vote. So that's something to really keep an eye on, is who's going to emerge as that non-Trump candidate. It could be Cruz, it could be Rubio, but I don't think it could be anybody else. And actually, as a conservative Republican, I really believe that it's time for Jeb Bush, and John Kasich, and Ben Carson to step aside so that the three top guys in the race can really duke it out to see who is best for the Republican Party to go on to the general election against either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. And that's it for today. So just be ready for another update next Friday, where we'll look at South Carolina, the Republican side, and Nevada, the Democratic side, in the rearview mirror. And we'll look forward to the Democratic primary in South Carolina as well. Thank you very much. Oh, and since I'm just getting off the ground here, I hope that all of you guys will subscribe and spread the word. Now, you can subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. I think it's right in the right side, down low. Wait, right side? Whichever the right side is. Just click on the button and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.